Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Arthouse for episode 2, the second installment of the complete history, the pre-alpha history of Sorcery Contested Realm. So as you guys know, I am one of the 4 top backers of the Sorcery Kickstarter. I've been super passionate about this game since very early beginnings, dating back to 2021 timeframe, I believe. So here we are as the time of this recording, about 4 years into the journey of Sorcery. And in those early days, when the social media was just kicking up, when Sorcery had just started its Discord, there was very few people in the Discord, right? Maybe 50 to 100 people. It was very early on. We were seeing cards, images for this game only in digital form, right? Very little in physical form until there was a video from Red Zone Rogue. He had received a set of pre-alpha printed in New Zealand by Erik Olofsson himself, creator of Sorcery Contested Realm, pre-constructed decks, 4 pre-constructed decks for each of what would become known as the elemental avatars in alpha. So these were printed by Erik. He even printed the packaging, and they were featured on a video, which I'm going to show very quickly here, a preview. If I go to my screen, in this video by Red Zone Rogue, these 4 pre-con decks were featured. There was a personal letter from Erik. There was the 4 boxes that Erik had created. And then there were the 4 complete decks, printed playtest decks from this era, right? And again, this was one of the very first times we had seen these in printed form. From talking with some of Erik's friends in Sweden, people close to him, it sounds like perhaps a handful or so of these have been made, at least that we are aware of, and distributed to close friends of his. I know of only 2 others besides the one that was given to Red Zone Rogue. So speculatively, maybe a handful, anecdotally, is what we believe might be out there. And I have had the great pleasure of acquiring this exact set from Red Zone Rogue. And we're going to go to the overhead camera, and I'm going to show you guys here a beautiful piece of history, recreating that image as you just saw it, the 4 decks by Red Zone Rogue. Avatar of Water, Earth, Wind, before it became Air and Alpha, and the Avatar of Fire. And here are those 4 decks created by Erik. Only a handful of these, at least that we know of in the world. Last time, we talked about Spellcraft, right? And the Spellcraft were the first cards that we are aware of, which were home, test, printed. And I'm showing these 2, the Firelands of Freets by Jeff Easley and the Fiery Inferno by Brian Smith, that predated Alpha, predated these pre-constructed decks, as far as we know. And we covered that in great detail in a separate episode, the first installment of the history of Sorcery Contested Realm. Let's go to the overhead cam so we can get a good look at these sets. All right, so you can go. I'm going to link the Red Zone Road video in comments so you guys can see that. But we're going to have a look here and see what really stands out from these boxes. The pre-constructed water deck. Here you see it's kind of a rough fit. Erik actually printed this. You can see how right here there's a bit separation from the side. This is not printed by the factory at this time in Sorcery's history. This was probably, let me see, I think it was roughly 3 years ago. It must have been early 2022 or so, before Alpha, before they even settled on a printer. These were homemade by Erik, so it's not perfectly aligned, right? You see it's off-center. Sorcery Contested Realm is a tactical duel card game with iconic hand-painted art. This pack contains all you need for 1 player, 1 avatar, 16 atlas, and 36 spell cards. So that is how many cards are in these boxes. You see the beautiful artwork by Severin Pinot. Sorcery Contested Realm, pre-constructed water deck. Nothing on the bottom, okay? So at that time, here we see the Alpha pre-constructed box, right? So this was still in development. This was not finalized yet. This came later for Alpha, where we had the protective seal. This one's been opened, and the Alpha symbol on the front. So you know that was Alpha. What I'm going to cover in a subsequent video here is the pre-constructed decks, first edition, right? So there's very few of these first edition pre-con sample decks, right? I did an article on this. Only a handful of content creators received these. I did not receive these. I had to acquire these separately, just like I did with the box from Red Zone Rogue. It's in this beautiful bearish acrylic case. First edition, right? So that is a video for another day. And if you guys want to find more info on this before we get into the live action, let's once again go to the website here. And if you go to collectorarthouse.com, go to interviews and articles. A very early article I did featured those pre-constructed sample card decks, which are very similar to the ones we're going to show here in the video, right? With some differences, as we'll point out as we go. So this article here, Sample Cards, the rarest sorcery collectible under interviews and articles, was written in June 29th, 2022, right? So I wrote this a few months after the Red Zone Rogue video released, when pre-constructed decks started coming into the fold. So this tells you everything about the alpha pre-constructed, pre-alpha sample card pre-con decks. Some speculation on size, who received these, which content creators. There was only a few. It was before I really got into content creation. I was just a huge fan of the project, and I documented the full deck list for all 4 decks. And again, there are some nuances to the ones you're going to see today versus this. So this article has received several thousand views since being posted over the past few years, and you guys are going to want to go and check that out to get more information about that complete history. One other piece of information for Provenance. I do have this certificate of authenticity from Red Zone Rogue. It says, these 4 Sorcery Contested Realm pre-alpha decks were given to one Kellen Rosenberger, aka Red Zone Rogue, by one Erik Olofsson, the creator of Sorcery Contested Realm and founder of Erik's Curiosa, to test a game and provide early feedback. The decks are Water, Wind, Fire, and Earth. Signed, Kellen Rosenberger. There's a signature, July 23rd, 2024, Red Zone Rogue. Someone else had purchased these from him, and I, in turn, acquired this complete set. So those are the images that I just showed you live, the 4 pre-con decks of each of the elements. All right, so here we go. Let's clear up the desk a little bit. And I think what we'll do is start with the avatar of water. And we'll go through this quickly and just kind of see any kind of details that jump out to us with differences in the final alpha print. So again, Spellcraft first, then these home printed cards when the name was decided on Sorcery Contested Realm. And I spoke in the last episode about how that name was undecided. It was called Project Atlas in the very early days. And there were other names as we come to find out. All right, so the great old one. In these, and you could watch Red Zone Road's video too. He did a great job kind of showcasing the game at that time. It was one of the first promotional content creator partner debuts of the game in printed form. You see the rounded corners right away, much more rounded than the final alpha print. So that's one feature that stands out. The cutting is not precise. Here it cuts off Severin's name at the bottom, and these were tested and played by Red Zone Rogue. So very interesting. The great old one of the iconic Seagrave cards. You see some details here. The text size is varied and inconsistent. As we go through here, you compare this card to this one, fairly comparable with Mother Nature and Elite, right? We know this became a unique in the final print, an Elite Mythic. So the design, the creature types, the text sizing, all very different. We had Sedge Crabs with the iron skin. So rarity levels, card titles, just like sample cards, all of this evolved. Look at the Ice Lance with the linear damage effect. A lot of this was removed either in sample cards or ultimately in alpha. The Great Diluvian Kraken. Here you see some smaller text. So it looks like text was scaled to kind of fit the text box. It was really unsettled. Upwelling, an artwork by Elvira Palikowska that did not see final use in the alpha print. There was a version by Alan Pollock that was used. Here we have Iron Skin once again, the Yokai Kappas, an alternate art that was changed, right? This was a temporary early art concept by Gadu Duaso. And here Erik wrote temp art, written by Erik. Very cool. Look at the splash damage on Frost Nova. A lot of evolution and change. Wrath of the Sea, Matthias Frisk, Mega Amoeba got the token treatment. Here you see the Anui Undine. The symbol here, looks like this symbol is almost back for Gothic, right? Very similar. See some early signs of what that looked like. The Bullfrogs by McHale. Let's go a little quicker here. I want to show you a bit of each of the 4 decks. And you guys, if you're interested in seeing more of this, please leave a comment. I'm happy to show this at the Sorcery Community Facebook group, Sorcery's largest Facebook group in the community. We're at 5,100 members currently. Really great time. An icon of calm and contentment. So I'm happy to show more of this in the Sorcery Community Facebook group and the Collector Arthouse Discord. You guys could find the links in the description. Flood, the Angler, Sea Serpent. Again, the splash damage patterns, the design variants. One of these days, I will catalog these and put them on the website, but I showcase a lot of this early history and compare to alpha, beta, design change over time. All right, here's a unique finding, right? So the Tadpole Pool, what do you notice? Unique, right? But there's 2 of them in the deck. So early on, this was before it was decided that unique meant there would only be 1 copy allowed per deck. Big change there. The Maelstrom, Floodplain, Undertow by Kaio. And then we had several of the rivers. Get my autofocus back there. Summer River, the Leviathan Island, Drew Tucker. Autumn River. So some of the basic sites did have name changes. Spring River, Summer River. So we're going to find artwork that wasn't used, card title changes, rarity changes, even rule changes where we saw the multiple uniques. Moving on to the Avatar of Earth deck, the Spear of Destiny, one of the iconic early cards in the game. In large, saw a lot of rarity change. Here was an exceptional early on and a +7 damage. Queen of Midland, the King of the Realm, Tony Sudlow, Crusade, the iconic Screaming Skull. Some really big time cards in here. The Rightness Titan. And there was some interesting history that I've covered on the channel on the Titan, how the template got mixed up with another card. Here you see the Elite Mythic again. And of course, Mythic was retired in the final printing. The big splash damage from Crater Eyes. Differences to the way the splash damage is applied. Iron Skin on Atlas Wanderers. The infamous Pudge Butcher. More Pudge. You guys can slow this down or go back, enjoy the design change, the title changes, the evolution of the game, get a good shot of all the cards in the deck. Frontier Settlers, Cave Trolls, Rift Valley, Seagrave. So Rift Valley, a unique site of startling displacement. You may pull apart a partial row or column of sites to make a void in which to play the valley. So that one's fairly consistent. Vantage Hills. Some of these called Only Village. So a name change, very simplified in the early days. There's another one that evolved to Humble Village. So even within its own deck, its own printing, the print files were changing. The test print cards were changing. It's interesting. There's a couple just called Village. This was Simple Village. And Regular Village, Humble Village also had one of each variant. All right, moving on to Avatar of Wind. And of course, the huge change here was wind changed to air in the final print, right? The Grim Reaper with a wild mechanic in the early days, rolling the D20. The Grandmaster Wizard, powerful card. The iconic Devil's Egg, Angel's Egg. The Hound's Nightmare, Headless Haunt, Sling Pixies, one of the artworks. Here you go, Lightning Bolt, which seen evolution change throughout the different variants in early print files, early digital files, early tabletop simulator, and then a final change in alpha. I was going to mention the Sling Pixies was included in the collector tier ultimately for the Kickstarter. Chain Lightning, which came later. Thunderstorm. Really epic. The Lightning Bolts, those are a classic. Blank, super powerful card in Alpha ultimately. Oh man, a big one. Cloud City, one of the most popular cards and artworks by Elvira Palikowska. The Great Wall, Observatory. All right, so now the towers. Lone Tower. There's Watchtower. Black Tower. So a big name change there. Black Tower once again. Simply just Tower. So there you get the variants within the deck. Again, just Tower for Gothic and Gothic Tower. This is actually not Gothic Tower. So Gothic Tower, Gothic Tower. All right. And finally, the Avatar of Fire, our final of the 4 decks. Extremely rare, Doomsday Prophet, Doomsday Device, the real epic 20 splash damage. That was a banger in early days pre-alpha. People were very excited about that. We saw the art changes for Infernal Legion by Melissa Benson. Major Explosion. Look at the splash damage on Major Explosion. Incredible design. Flash Fires. The Wayfaring Pilgrim. Saw a bunch of name change early on. The Quarrelsome Cabals. Of course, the Dromesdary. Ogre Goons. Heat Ray. Will-o'-the-Wisps. The Great Vasily. Look at Minor Explosion. The early days with the splash damage. It even said splash damage. The Ralki Dragonettes. A favorite of Dragon fans. Another Minor Explosion. The Rimland Nomads. Vesuvius. So Vesuvius we saw in the last video with Spellcraft with the Aranja art, alternate variant. River of Flame. The iconic Unique Sight by Ian Miller. Cornerstone. All right, we're getting to the basic lands here. Shifting Sands by Kyle Calazans, an alternate artwork, which has not seen its place in the game yet. They went with Vasily Ermoleyev's in the precons, the official alpha precons, and the final alpha print. So you got a few of those Shifting Sands by Kyle. Here, another very cool detail. You see Eric actually wrote in here as he was playing with the final mechanic. This desert may deal 1 damage to a nearby target. And you see that on a few of these here. Another red desert and arid desert. Same change, right? Same change here, remote desert. Same change here, remote desert. Same change again, red desert, cornerstone, Cerberus and Chains, and once again, red desert by Aranja. So there's your 4 decks, guys. Again, these are exceptionally rare. Again, we only know of 3 officially, this being one of those 3 that we've seen surface from the community forums. The Sorcery community group is often where people come forward. Sorcery's largest Facebook group presence. A lot of people in the community. I actually connected with a lot of people to acquire some of this stuff. The Spellcraft was pure happenstance. Falling into this was incredible. I didn't realize Red Zone Rogue had sold those. I had inquired very early on. But I made an acquaintance and made a deal with the person that owned these. So here I am gathering every variant of pre-alpha from the very early days, from Spellcraft to these home printed cards by creator Erik Olofsson with his markings on the card, his home printing, his design evolution coming to light. In the subsequent episodes, we will get into the sample precon decks, first edition, right? Very few of these in the world as well. A full deck, just like you're seeing here, with the next evolution of design change of the 4 elements, pre-alpha of the sample cards, before the actual alpha print with the alpha symbol, before the name alpha was even conceived. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of this series. Let me know what you think of the card evolution. And tell me how you're enjoying Sorcery Contested Realm. Thank you guys very much for your interest. Until next time, take care.